Vinetti is another good friend of the Lavori corso. I think that you present every edition of the Lavori corso because you pay a lot. He is from the EURAC Bolzano, if you're in Italy. He will present the data quite interesting, a lot interesting actually. Breathing on the shoulders of giants. Gas exchanges during exercise at 8,000 meters.
Thank you for having me for this last time, probably.
Come on. I would like to do another edition.
And also there is a nice sorting of the presentation, so now we are in the environmental physiology part. So everything is logical. So this is a part of a project, let's say, that involved our institution as well as several others. Of course, there are this kind of studies involving, in this case, alpinists, always up and downs, let's say, or there can be issue up. Sorry. Okay. So here, to make a long story short, everything started with the 2 years ago expedition to K2, all-female expedition, as you can see, and there were some tests that involved also our institution. So there was a pre-test and a post-test. And in the post-test, I was given this task to organize and to set up this logistic, let's say, to test the subject, also up to, let's say, Everest altitude in simulated environment like a baric chamber. And so this was the original aim of the study. But we were a little bit unlucky because in the return phase, some get infected by a beverage, and so they got the traveler diarrhea, they developed a severe infection that was manifested during the study itself, fortunately not the 8,000 meter. But of course this is public, also not private data, but this had to force us to move a little bit our aim. Fortunately, the same days, the summit was also reached by 2 of these 3 guys, and the other one almost reached the summit. So we decided to set up a protocol, similar protocol, to test them 10 days after the return, after a 40 days expedition. That means stay in base camp, then up and down, and so they were acclimatized, but there were 10 days between the end of the expedition and the test. And here comes the part of the giant, because this is the 100th anniversary of this place, basically. Also, there is also the physiological society. So I had to go back, of course, to read all the Operation Everest studies in the 40s, in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, because there were 4 editions. But before that, in the 30s, and this is the reference, you can see that our very own Margaria did his own sort of Operation Everest, very quick ascent, breathing pure oxygen, by stepping on a tube inside a very small chamber with Sir Douglas smoking the pipe outside, and inside Joseph Parker that was taking some measurement. It was the very first exercise at Everest altitude. And so they reached Everest altitude in no less than a couple, less than 1 hour, 10:45, and at, let's say here, 11 at 8, so 25 minutes, they were at Everest altitude. They started stepping up and down. This was very interesting, also informative, also for us, because here they described that they have, except probably of the ears, they have also pain, acute pain in the extensor muscle of the articulation. And this was repeated also in another participant. This is the first, and they did not know why, what happened. And then, inside, this is the first description of the compression sickness. But they did not notice. They simply reported, and then they said, we don't have in normal air, and we have in hyperbaric conditions. So, but they did it completely in very few hours, complete a travel from 0 to Everest. We were less traumatic. So first, because we don't want the compression sickness, this is another story, and we want to get some meaningful data. So we had a stepwise increment over, let's say, less than 24 hours. The first day and night were at intermediate altitude, like 5,000 meters, the night a little bit higher. And then we did some tests. Now I am speaking only about the exercise part, which was set for safety reason at 8,000 meters, also because they never went to 9,000 meters. And then since there was high pressure also to do some tests at 9,000 meters, we did some very small tests at 8.8 kilometers. So when they arrived, just normal, let's say, blood gas analysis, so the carb rate was normal, so the CO2 was normal, so it seems that acclimatization was a little bit vanished. But fortunately, they tolerated well both conditions. The first one is the resting condition, and I also was a little bit concerned about our instrument, because those instruments are not tested to this extreme barometric pressure. I talked also with the provider, and this seems credible. All this data seems credible. The arterial blood gas is, let's say, analyzed outside, so there was no problem. I believe that, but also I believe the other data, because if you look to the respiratory exchange ratio, you calculate the alveolar arterial difference. This is the same that you find in the literature. It's normal to have slightly negative value at very, very high altitude because of the CO2 is not real alveolar and small error, but it's close to zero. The other important result that we have is, that we have 3 mates that were able to do this test, is that they wanted first to see, also with you, if these data are credible or not. And I was positively surprised that I think they are, because if you see, this is superimposed from the testing on Moxia, and we can see that all the submaximal part is the same. I kept on purpose the ergometric protocol the same, and I see that this is surprisingly superimposed and only arrested at a lower maximum oxygen consumption. Ventilation was, of course, very high. This is the ventilation, and since the scale is the same, you can say that they ventilate 1 liter for every watt of increasing power output, and also the post-test result, respiratory exchange ratio near maximum. Heart rate, of course, you know that cannot be maximum. Lactate is in line with the literature, and we have a little bit lower PaO2 compared to the literature. That maximal exercise a little bit higher SpO2, probably because of the greater alkalosis we were here compared to longer studies. Okay, and to finish, this is the 3 points that we have. Okay, so they fit in the literature, let's say. I thank Guido for this nice graph that I updated. I've built it from Ferretti in 1990, and these are our 3 persons, so there is a huge variability. I cannot know why of this variability in the response, but I don't have conclusion because this is a work in progress, so I don't have a conclusion slide. This is also the various threshold. There seems to be a threshold, but yeah, the threshold, the concept of ventilatory threshold is questionable even at 6.
Question?
Thank you.
Stefano, it seems that Margherita already did it. Again.
You already did everything, so
again.
Bruno, grazie Udine. Bravo Giovanni, all these chamber studies are very sexy and interesting, but the bottom line is what is the interest of studying subjects which are by definition not acclimatized? They are not acclimatized to that altitude. Can you translate it into something?
If they were not acclimatized, they would lose consciousness. And they were acclimatized because they did a semi-successful, these 3 males, expedition to K2 the days before. 10 days before.
10 days before,
yeah.
Okay.
10 days before, but it's longer, because 10 days is only the travel, but then all the descent has happened way before. In fact, you see the arterial gas was almost normal, so it was not seems that they have some low bicarbonate or low PaCO2, but they retain something. They lose the bicarbonate, but they retain some ventilatory acclimatization.
No, well, he's afraid of me. Giovanni, very nice indeed. There is a sign in your presentation that the subjects were still acclimatized when they performed the study. Saturation on top of Mount Everest at maximal exercise was about 50%, but PaCO2 was 24, which means that the oxygen equilibrium curve was not really displaced to the left, as would be suggested by the very low values of PaCO2. It is possible that those subjects still had an increase in 2-3 dPg from altitude acclimatization. Do you have data on 2-3 dPg or not?
Yes, I think we have some blood sample that were, let's say, scheduled for oxyhemoglobin dissociation properties, and maybe also for 2-3 dPg, but I'm not sure.
You don't know the results yet.
No, I think it was not. Okay.
Hi, thanks for that. Great presentation, and it's really encouraging to see the females that are really pushing hard at the high altitudes and doing really well there. Just, you mentioned the very famous Rodolfo Magaria and the work he did in 1930, and of course he came away from that thinking that you couldn't climb Everest without supplemental oxygen. You showed him there with Barcroft and Kendall. What was really interesting in that paper, I don't know if you noticed it, but Kendall was exercising on the box stepper on supplemental O2, and they dropped the barometric pressure down to 180 millimeters of mercury.
Yeah.
And Kendall's heart rate was 164 beats per minute, but Magaria's heart rate was 88 beats per minute. So maybe a question for everyone here, perhaps later on. Was Magaria physiologically something as different as he was a brilliant scientist?
I was very young at that moment.
Nice boy.
He was in his early 30s, so that can be.
We have to move on because we are quite late, but thank you very much.